Hello once again. As always, it's good to have you back. I thought I'd start out this video with something that perplexed me when I first started working on these old radios. You'll notice that this capacitor can right here, the metal can is just clamped into the metal clamp. And I knew they were capacitor filter cans. And over here we have two filter cans, and I knew that, you know, cans like that were also filter cans. But look down here and you see cardboard around the base of each one. Now this one has no cardboard. This one does have cardboard. I've seen some filter cans side by side where one had cardboard and the other one did not. And right in the beginning is what I'm talking about. And I used to say, I wonder why that is. That's kind of goofy. I guess they're probably the cardboard's there to hold the cans in, you know, to take up the space to clamp them in, so the cans don't get dented in when they tighten up the bolts on the clamps. Huh. Wrong. and then I used to reason. I said, well, somebody probably took that one out and lost the cardboard. And then you're going to run into some where the entire can is covered with cardboard. You may run into two cans side by side, each one covered completely with cardboard. One may be taller than the other. One may have cardboard, you know, up to about here, and the other one have none at all. So, you know, what is this all about? Well, I'm going to tell you. Now, here's why. These two filter cans, one had an 8 and a 10 microfarad in it, and this one had the 8 and the 10. This one just had an 8. Okay, so they comprised 3 capacitors. Those capacitors are right here. Here's the 8 and the 10, you'll remember from a previous video, and here's the other 8. Now look at where the negatives are all connected here. There's a negative. Remember what the negative side looks like. Looks like the bottom of a can, remember? Okay, and that would be right here, down, across, and up. The negative comes over, connects there. The negative of this one comes down, connects there. The negative of this one, because it has the positive ground, the negative of this one comes up and connects there. All 3 of these capacitors connect together, but they do not, repeat, not, they do not connect to ground, which in this case is the chassis. They only connect to each other. So that's why the cardboard is on there, to keep the outside of the can, which is the negative part of the capacitors, from touching the chassis. It's an isolation thing. It goes all the way down through into the bottom a little bit, and you will not have any continuity between the outside of these cans and this chassis. Okay? So here's the real deal. You know, you pick up a radio somewhere and it looks in really good shape. And you get it home and you find that one of the wires on the bottom of the electrolytic can has been taken off, or it's fallen off, clipped off, broken off, pulled off, whatever. It's just hanging down there. So you say, oh, well, I know what's wrong with this thing. I bet if I hook that wire back up to the bottom of that electrolytic can and, you know, turn on the old power for a little test, I might be able to get a station out of there. At this point, you haven't even bothered probably to look at the, you know, the schematic. The guy that took that thing out, he, you know, cut the wire underneath or broke it loose. He took it out, looked at it and said, I don't think I know what this is. And in the process of taking it out, he has lost the cardboard, so he just said, heck with it. He stuck it back in there, put the clamp on, and sold it, or got rid of it, or stuck it somewhere until it wound up in your hands. So you just hook up the lead to the bottom of the can, and then turn it on, and within a few minutes, there goes your power transformer. You start smelling things burning because that was supposed to be isolated from the chassis. You didn't check the schematic. I just want you to know that some of these are, in fact, isolated. Okay? Just want you to know that. It took me a long time to figure that out for myself, with the help of several people on the Antique Radio Forum, of course. Now, as you can see, the 1, 2, and 3 microfarad capacitors that are in that smaller can, this one right here, all of their negative sides are connected to ground. Here, here, and here. So that's why the negative plate here is connected to the chassis with no cardboard to isolate it. Let's go ahead and get this old switch and volume control pot out of here and get this one back in. This is the original one. Okay, now you'll notice on this thing that there are two connectors, or two terminals, one here and one there, and then on the opposite side there's only one. This one right there, all by itself, sitting out here. This is the, let me go ahead and get this light out. I don't quite think we need it that bright. This right here is your volume control, and this radio has a very long shaft that runs, it's got cardboard around it. Runs all the way out, sticks out. This is a 2 megohm pot. And at the 1 megohm point, there is a tap off right here. Okay? Now that tap off comes around and goes through a resistor. Let me see if you can see that resistor down there. See that? See that resistor right? Where is it? I gotta see it in my camera. Where is it? Right there. There's the resistor right there. Comes off a single terminal through the resistor, and then it goes out a wire all the way across. You follow the wire all the way out. It's that blue one looking thing, kind of a grayish blue. Then it goes down. It goes all the way down through this space, and all the way down. There it is, coming out. And it comes over and it connects. They've got it connected to the center tap. No, they've got it connected to one side of the volume control. Let me show you what that was originally. Originally, I've got it marked in orange. Here's where it tapped off the 2 meg volume control, which I've got in blue. Here's the wiper in green, the 2 meg volume control. It was tapped off at 1 meg. Says so right there. Tap at 1.0 meg. It comes across, down through that resistor, all the way across, up and over to the original on-off tone switch control. Now that connection on the original switch is this little old lonely connection right here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put this in, but before we slip it up through the hole here, before we slip the shaft through, we'll go ahead and solder this wire right here, this bluish gray wire. We'll take it off of here and we'll solder it here. But before I do, I'm going to go ahead and inspect this wire. It looks like it might have a couple of frayed spots right here. I'm going to put a little, see, there's one right there. You got to inspect this stuff. Don't take anything for granted. I'm going to go ahead and inspect that wire. Put a little liquid tape here and there as needed. Alright, the wire running from the volume control here all the way down has been soldered on to that lonely little terminal down there. And we have to slip it through this cardboard protector. The cardboard protector goes like this with the wings, like one against the bottom of the chassis and one against this lip. It slips over there like that. And then this little catch right here, it has a little thing that sticks out right there. That little thing right there where my thumb is, that goes into one of the holes here that keeps it from spinning around, when you turn the knob. Now, one thing I want to say about this, I've had several Philcos that have had this setup where they tapped off at a certain point on the volume control and then ran it down to a tone control setup just like this. And every single one right here where it tapped into the volume control, every single one of them was broken. They didn't work anymore. So we had to resort in every case to plan B, which is what we might have to do after we get all this together and get it all hooked up. If it doesn't work, we're going to have to dismantle it all, with the exception of the on-off switch. We'll have to, actually what we're going to do is put the same thing that they have right here that they put on at that old radio shop. We're going to put a 1 meg volume control on-off switch, which would be plan B. We'll set that up instead, so we'll be putting essentially back the whole same setup you see here. let's hope this one works. I hate to waste all this after all this effort of getting it fixed and everything, to have it messed up because of the you know, the bad connection right here. But like I said, I've never had one work properly yet. I've transferred the on-off switch wires. Your on-off switch are your two connections in this on the back of this black thing. I transferred those two wires over to the on-off switch on the back of this one, so those are in now. I've decided to go ahead and just open up our tone control block and clean it all out, which I have. I'm not going to put the capacitors inside though. I'm going to mount them on the outside of the block. And the only reason I took the capacitors out of there is I wanted you to see that there were actually two in that one. 2 0.015 microfarads, okay? Again, they just look like little foil wrapped chocolates. Each one 0.015. And this one, by the way, had a whole lot of tar in it. I had to really put the heat to it. But you don't want to ruin the block in the process of putting the heat to it. Be careful, okay? Now, one more thing I'll point out to you. You see how narrow this block is? Pretty narrow little thing. It's not very wide at all. Usually, your narrow blocks only have one capacitor in them. Now, this one here is about twice the width. Really wide. And the wide ones usually have two capacitors in them. Let's take a look at how that block is wired. Up here on the phase inverter, pin number 5, which is the control grid, it comes out, comes down, and it comes over to a 0.015 capacitor. The other side of the capacitor goes over to a resistor, a 1 meg resistor, to ground. Now these capacitors are normal, you know, they were inside the block. Well, we're going to put them outside the block. Remember, it comes down, the wire from the pin 5 on the tube comes down to one side of the capacitor, the other side goes over to the resistor to ground, a 1 meg resistor. Alright, let's find that green wire that hooks to pin 5. It's okay, this is the phase inverter tube. Now pin 5, starting at that little notch right there, you see that notch. Let me block it with my hand there. It's getting a little sun through there. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there's a wire right here. See that wire connected to it right there? It comes around, it runs along the side of this block behind these two wires, and it solders right there up underneath this resistor, solders to that terminal on that block. And then from there, the wire comes out the other side right here, comes out and runs down through this little bundle of wires. Comes in one side, goes out the other. Comes down this little bundle of wires all the way down. See that green one? All the way down, all the way down, all the way down, and then it pops out right here. It pops out of the bundle right there. And it runs over to this Bakelite block terminal right there. Well, there, that terminal is right there on that side of the capacitor. Okay? Now let's find the resistor. The resistor, the 1 meg resistor, is right here. And it goes down to ground. It connects to this terminal right here. Well, we need to make sure there's a capacitor between that wire and that resistor. So let's do that. We're just going to slip them in for now. I'm not going to solder them up until I get it all done. Let's put a resistor between that wire on the right and that resistor on the left. Well, there we go. We've got our first capacitor in. Now the second capacitor is even easier than the first. You can see that one side of the capacitor either connects to the capacitor we already installed, or it goes over here and connects to the resistor, which goes to ground at 1 meg. So that plate lead, we'll probably go ahead and use the resistor connector because that's what they did in the factory. You know, makes life a whole lot easier, easy to find. It really doesn't matter though. I could connect it here or here. The other side of the capacitor connects to a wire that goes over to the tone switch. So let's find that mess here. One side goes to the resistor, which is right here, and the other side goes to a wire that goes over to the tone switch, which is this blue kind of grayish wire right here. Okay? So that the way this is going to go is like so and like so. Alright. Now I'm not going to solder them in like that. I'll use these tabs, you know, I'll take it out and solder them to the tabs, make it look neat and nice. Whenever we turn this radio on, we're going to be turning the knob clockwise on the front. First the switch will come on, and then, you know, the two tone positions will come afterwards. There's the switch, tone, tone. Okay? Now, clockwise on the front translates out into counterclockwise on the back. And we have two terminals sticking out from the side of this thing. They're just underneath this cardboard. There's one on the top and one on the bottom. So when we go counterclockwise, the first one to be hit will be the one on top. Now let's see what that one on top is connected to. This is the first terminal right here going counterclockwise. You'll see that there's nothing here, nothing here. This is the switch that connects, you know, all this mess over here. That just leaves this one and this one. Now this one here is the first one. It's connected across from, it'll be connected right to the same terminal that has the resistor. Okay? So that means this is the terminal that has the resistor. Here's your resistor. This is the wire coming off that side that has the resistor. It's the white one. So guess what? The white one will go on the top connector, and this blue one, or blue-gray, whatever it is, will go on the bottom connector. But you know, we're not going to get overly excited about this. I'll tell you why. Because even if it were to turn out that they were reversed wrong, all you got to do is unsolder them and, you know, switch them around. Not the end of the world, okay? All right. That's it for this video. I'll tell you what, this has been a real chore on this one. All right, next time we'll be disconnecting the power cord. I'm going to, the power cord on this seems to be pretty good. I'll go ahead and use it for a test run. Later on, we'll put a different one in, a better one. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and put a fuse in it. We're going to go ahead and put a power resistor, which will cut down the voltage. One thing I wanted to tell you about these CanDome resistors, by the way. There's two things I want to cover before we close the video. These CanDome resistors. Anytime you have an open, now this is nothing more than a one long wire wound resistor with tap-offs here and there at different resistance points. I was told a long time ago by a very smart guy in the Antique Radio Forum who's now passed away. He said, you know, if you discover an open between here and here, and a lot of people will put that value resistor, they'll just get a resistor and put across there. Not a wise idea. He said because these CanDome resistors, from his experience, have a bad habit of coming back to life unexpectedly. And so the best thing to do is, if you have an open resistor between here or here or here, anywhere, get rid of it, put a terminal strip in, use 5-watt ceramic and cement resistors. That'll take the, you know, take the place of the entire thing. He said, don't mess around with these things. They're just not reliable. Okay? And of course, the last thing I want to cover is one of our subscribers, Dan Luddington, said, hey John, you need to mention high voltages again. It's been a while, probably since I've done so, and he's right. All you new folks out there that are just messing around these radios for the first or second time, be careful. These transformers put out anywhere from, my God, what, 400 up to 700, 800 volts. Be careful, be careful. There are very high voltages in these old radios. You get yourself killed. You know what killed is with a capital K? It means dead. It means buried, worm, food. Anyway, I appreciate everybody being here. Until next time, this is John.